Listeners in London be advised, a war machine has been sighted in the area. Citizens are advised to stay calm and remain in their homes and listen to an Unearthly Podcast, episode 255, streaming live on the 2nd of May 2018, and featuring The War Machines, written by Ian Stewart Black, and starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Jackie Lane as Dorothea Dodo Chaplet, and introducing Anarchy Wills as Polly and Michael Craze as Ben Jackson. I'm your host for this evening, Randy Ronson McCulloch, and with me is our technical director, Mad Matt Winchell.
I'm out drink. Let me know when we have a long article.
And we have a full boat on the panel tonight. So with us is Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black.
How's it going?
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Ice cream.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Yo.
And Thomas Fireheart back after an extended absence.
Yeah, I came back out of the void again.
And probably going back in next week because we're going back to telesnaps.
He's poked his head out. He's seen the sunlight.
I think it's only 1 week. So how's everyone's week been?
Hectic.
Very busy. The week before finals, which means tons of paper due, and I took a day to go to the whatever the library is called where we watched a Broadway play, but not on Broadway.
Well, we had.
I think the library itself was on Broadway, or at least close to it. But yeah.
But it's not considered a Broadway play. Yeah. Yeah, we had a kind of a hectic week ourselves. We had a cat that went terminally sick and had to be put to sleep.
Oh.
That happened last Thursday, so we've had a few days to get over it. But sad thing, expensive thing too. It's costing us.
I'm really sorry.
When everything is said and done, it's costing us around $250.
$283.
283? Jeez.
Plus another $85 or $89 to cremate him and have him done in the group.
Excuse me, $350. I missed a digit. Yeah. I forgot to carry a 1.
We're doing the group cremation where they spread his ashes out over a farm field so he can finally run free one last time.
I'm sorry. I failed to carry a digit. I'm not a sophisticated computerized thinking machine attempting to take over the world.
And like a little paw print. Little paw print charm was about $20, so it's very expensive.
All right, so on tonight's show, we've got news and birthdays as usual. Matt has gone to see a movie over the weekend, and he and Thomas have both seen it and would like to talk about it. Spoiler free, or they die.
Yeah.
Don't look at me. I'm probably I literally edited a vlog so we would be spoiler free.
I don't think we have anybody who's seen back stuff for the review of Shame yet.
Nope.
No
Shame.
YouTube comments. And I did promise I would do the summary for this evening. I promised that weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's time for me to pay the piper.
Pay the piper. Pay the piper. Pick the peppers.
And then, of course, the episode review, our final thoughts, and our ratings.
Yes.
So, let's start the news underway, shall we? Birthdays. We have a total of 4 birthdays. Not a big week, not a small week either. Starting with the 27th of April, it is the birthday of 2 people, one of which is Jenna Coleman, better known as Clara Oswald from 2013 to 2015, who turned 32. Also, on the same day is the birthday of Russell T. Davies, the showrunner from 2005 to 2009. He turned 55, and we will hear some stuff from him later. Following that, the 1st of May is the birthday of Joanna Lumley, the 13th Doctor from The Curse of Fatal Death. I include her because technically she played a doctor. And she turned 72, which surprised me. I don't remember her being quite that old. Which means she was in her 50s, early 50s, when she did Curse of Fatal Death. And then, on the 2nd of May, we have one of the honorable mentions, Paul Darrow, who played Tecker in Time Lash, but is best known as Care Avon in the series Blake 7. He turned 77. I also found out that he was, I believe, a unit officer in the Silurians. So he was in Doctor Who twice and was better known for his role in Blake 7.
Yep. Doesn't surprise me at all that people acting in sci-fi would cross over into other shows.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't realize until then that he played 2 roles. I only knew him as Tecker from Time Lash and Avon in Blake 7, so happy birthday, Jenna, Russell, Joanna, and Paul. Okay. Well, this would be the point that we went from births to deaths, but there have been no reported deaths in the Doctor Who family this week. And then, of course, following that, we would turn to episode news, but again, there has been no episode news. All has been very silent coming out of Cardiff. Makes me wonder what's going on, if they're keeping their doors particularly locked for what they're filming, or what's happening. So from here, we go to cast and crew news, and we do have, as I mentioned, some words from Russell T. Davies. Aaron, take it away.
All right. So we've heard a lot from Christopher Eccleston recently. Stories on what caused him to leave Doctor Who in 2005 after only 1 season. Stories on how he was mistreated by the production staff. Now, in an interview with SFX magazine, Russell responded, "What has to be remembered when the show's being discussed in the present tense now is that I was his employer. I was his producer. I have a duty of care towards my lead actor I work with, so I have a duty of care towards Chris in that moment." He added that he's free to say and explore whatever he wants. That's fine. This duty of care involves respecting him and listening to him at all times. That's my job, and that duty of care towards him will extend for the rest of our lives. He will always be my doctor, and I will always be his producer. Apparently, Davies had nothing but praise for Eccleston in the interview, citing the risk he took in taking the role in the first place. So
Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, it's just good. I mean, we've been posting one end of the story, so it's good we got to hear from the other end of it a little bit, and he was very professional about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a very professional response. You know,
Very magnanimous.
Yeah, given the all the drama that I've seen in politics and everything, it's just it's nice to it's refreshing, I should say.
Nice that people remember how to be professional and courteous in an age where that seems to have gone out the window in most cases.
Yeah.
To be honest, I go to the grocery store these days. I perfectly expect to be given the bird by whoever's working there. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's just a harsh world. It's just
dog eat dog world, and some of us are wearing mug bone underwear.
It's just nice to see somebody remembers how to use customer service other than me.
Yes.
All right. And this is saying something because I hardly use it here, do I? Okay, so the next bit of news we have is event news. And Tim, you have this?
Yes. American theater-going audiences will get a chance to see one of the most beloved classic Who serials on the big screen. Fathom Events, the group that has been bringing Doctor Who to theater screens since 2013, is bringing the 1975 classic Genesis of the Daleks to the big screen. This is happening to hype the release of the 12th season of Doctor Who on Blu-ray, something we mentioned a few weeks back. This is a limited showing, so check with theaters in your area or on the Fathom website.
And I forgot to add to the article, this is happening June 11th. My bad. That was my fault. Sorry. I was writing these in a hurry again. Yeah, it's June 11th is when they're screening, and yeah, it's actually in our area, by the way. It's not surprising considering the high level of geekdom in Madison. But we actually have a choice on whether we want to go see it at Point or if we wanted to go see it at Sun Prairie. They're both showing it.
There's so much geekdom in Madison, you should have a con.
Right.
Not so subtle hype there.
It's just me, or did I suddenly get knocked in the back of the head with a sledgehammer?
On to the next piece.
Yes.
Really,
We
you're
have
changing
some
the justification while I'm supposed to be reading it?
Yeah, it bugged me. Anyway, we do have some media news. We actually have a couple of media pieces, but the first one's in our book department.
Yep.
And it's not from our usual people.
Released a few days ago online by Pseudoscope Publishing was Time Shadow's Anniversary Edition and Time Shadow's Second Nature. These are unofficial and unauthorized anthologies of short stories created for charity benefiting Code, Canada's charity to help advance literature and education. Look for more information and pricing at www, although I don't know if that's still needed in 2018, pseudoscopepublishing.com.
I'm old school.
It worked fine for me. I'm already there.
Yeah, I couldn't actually find the price listing just looking randomly, and I was doing it on a time budget, so that's why the price listing's not listed for some of these. Like just the brief note I'm giving here, which is from our audio section, we mentioned a few weeks ago again that the Series 9 soundtrack was coming soon. Well, coming soon is now. So you can purchase it through your regular retailers. You can get it on Amazon or purchase it digitally from both Amazon and iTunes as well. I looked on iTunes today. I saw it. I haven't bought it yet, but I'm thinking about it. All right, so that is our media releases. And that takes us to the last piece of news we have from Big Finish.
Big Finish out now. We have Short Trips Erasure. Out on 30th of April is Short Trips Erasure by Gary Russell. Sean Carlson reprises his role from the Gallifrey Audios as CIA Subcoordinator Narvin, set to investigate the planet Beliscan, and unfortunately for him, makes him have to deal with the irrepressible Fourth Doctor. Erasure is available from the Big Finish website for £2.99, download only.
Yeah, it's with most short trips, there is no physical CD version, unless they eventually decide to release like a compilation CD, but they haven't done that yet.
That'd be a cool thing.
Yeah, it would be. I'm surprised they haven't thought about it. And that's our news. That is it. News in 15 minutes.
Dang.
Just
We
as
have
well
it
because
down.
we have a lot of people to talk over today.
Yeah, that is true. But before we get to that, we do have a Geek Talk. I believe it was both you and Thomas that went to go see Avengers Infinity Wars. Now, I have seen some reactions on like Facebook and stuff to this, and it's absolutely people just jaw-dropping dumbfounded. Would you agree with this sudden, this response?
Thomas?
Yes and no, but it's because certain stuff that happens, you could I anyway could see coming. But yeah, for people who have no idea what this is based on or anything like that, then yeah, there is gonna be some shocking stuff in there. There is definitely, I will not say what, but there is definitely one thing that will shock the crap out of anyone who's been paying attention to the MCU since the get-go. That will be it'll come out of nowhere, and you will, if you don't audibly go, holy shit, then I'll be quite surprised.
I feel like the only way that could happen is if they make the focus on a female character.
Well, I've read the Wikipedia article for it.
Shush.
So...
Don't say it.
Killing also responds to people who spoiler from wiki articles, honey.
He knows where you sleep.
I do. It's not that far from where I sleep.
It's a good thing I have the cat trained to seek revenge afterwards.
You forget, hon, that's my cat.
But yeah, as far as my kind of brief thoughts on the movie goes, the first time I saw it, immediately after coming out, I was like, I want to go see it again. And it ended up being that I saw it the day it came out, and then I went and saw it again on the Friday, because I was just like, I can't, for whatever reason, I just had this kind of overwhelming like crack addict need that I had to see it again.
Yeah.
Mm.
I've had that feeling with plenty of other movies. Dark Knight was one of them.
Question.
Yeah, what it was? You had that
but-
feeling, and you actually played on it when we went to go see the first Deadpool movie.
Before you ask your question, Tim, I should also reply to the first question, which is yes, I wholeheartedly agree. And like Thomas, I'm aware of some of the stuff that's supposed to be going on, and I was still taken aback. Just.
Do you need to have seen every MCU movie before this to enjoy it?
I have seen every single MCU movie before this one.
I have maybe missed one or two movies here or there, and I'd still say I highly enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I will say
I'd
the
say
big
there's only.
Oh, go ahead.
I'd say there's only. So I can't say which because it would spoil.
It
stuff.
would spoil things, yeah.
Yeah, but there are certain MCU movies where if you haven't seen them, they're going to be things that you'll be like, okay, what? Am I missing something? But otherwise, so long as you've seen most or all of Phase 3 so far, you should be fine.
That's what I assumed, but I've seen a lot of people basically treating it as if you haven't seen every movie, then this movie's not for you. You're not going to understand anything that's happening.
That's a load of bull.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's over the top fanboys there.
I'm there might be some stuff you miss if you haven't seen certain movies.
There might be some little details here and there, yes. But overall, I can honestly tell you, I've missed a few, and it doesn't seem to have affected me at all.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I'm only going to
people
finally see one of them in a few more months.
I've seen a lot of people pissed off that there wasn't an introduction backstory montage, and that everyone was supposedly forced to watch everything that came before to understand it.
They to add a montage for 3 different phases of the movie.
Well, I mean,
that would have been a movie in itself.
I kind of disagree because the trailers indicated that 2 teams were going to be meeting each other, which implies that there's going to be an introduction montage.
Not really, no.
No.
No,
so they
I don't know where you're getting that.
Without the Guardians and the
like,
Avengers ever knowing who each other are.
Yeah, like without spoiling anything, there is some exposition, but not really recapping the entire history of the MCU so far. Kind of stuff.
We'd be sitting here for half the movie.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, all of the fans would be antsy and shouting, "Get on with it!" well before the 10-minute mark.
Yeah, I want to go see it, but I'm kind of tempted to wait till May 22nd so that we could basically theater hop both Infinity War and Deadpool 2. Just because...
Wow, so if I'm thinking of this right, so Infinity War, at the end of its run, Solo, Deadpool, and Ant-Man are all going to be in theaters at the same time?
Yes.
Oh, I forgot about the Ant-Man movie coming out. Ant-Man and Wasp? I completely forgot about that.
I believe you're in my Discord, aren't you, Aaron?
No,
Yeah.
I knew it was coming out. I didn't think it was this month.
Next
first
month.
weekend of July, I think.
Month or two, yeah.
That's why I said end of Avengers run.
Yeah.
There'll be a small selection of theaters still running it at that point, yes.
And DC is still struggling to get out any of their follow-up movies from Justice League.
They're struggling just to get out a movie at this point.
And I mean, Disney's just sitting here cranking out a movie, cranking out another movie, cranking out another movie.
Warner Brothers is just like, should we do another one for it right away?
Well, the problem is that Warner Brothers is failing.
It really is, in most cases.
No, financially it's failing.
Mm-hmm.
Not achievement, it's failing. Financially, it is.
No, yeah, because they keep blowing it.
Well, not just on this, on a lot of things. A lot of theaters, a lot of production companies are skittering on the edge just because of the amount of budget that A-list movies take these days. You're basically every movie is a Hail Mary pass. You spend all of your money making this movie and hope it recounts all the movie back. Only if you're a financial giant like Disney, whose assets is in the billions, and that's just the stuff they have hidden from the government. Disney can throw, we'll throw 300 million on this one and 300 million on that one and 300 million on there and 300 on Solo and go. And oh, look, we just got Fox's stuff. Okay, we'll throw money at them too. Disney can do that and not blink. But Paramount and Warner Brothers have been doing this, and their movies have been not so well. Warner Brothers is banking on the Harry Potter movies to keep them afloat. DC is failing them. Paramount's Star Trek franchise is failing them. Michael Bay films are failing them, and they're pretty much on the edge. So,
and Paramount's actually taking back their original decision to not do a Friday the 13th movie, apparently, from what I hear. A little late.
It's one of those things that's just, it's kind of hard for them to figure out if what they're doing can justify the expense. That's the problem.
And Sony's in a really weird position, too. The Sony Pictures, I will say, is the part of Sony that's in a lot of deep water right now.
Yes.
The rest of Sony's doing fine. Matter of fact, I'm willing to bet that they're half tempted to either force Sony Pictures underneath another part of Sony or just sell it and forget it. More likely the first.
Yeah. It's quite possible that Sony's looking to sell Sony Pictures. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. But I know they haven't been doing well. Like I said,
the only movie that's done well for them in the last 2 years, as far as I'm aware, is Blade Runner.
Yeah, and that did okay. It didn't.
And that did okay.
Great.
It didn't go bonkers right away.
Yeah. I'm hearing it's doing better in digital sales.
Digital and DVD and Blu-ray, yes. It's doing wonderfully, apparently.
Well, I didn't mean like downloads. I just meant making the after sales, what we used to call the video release. I just can't call it video releases anymore because it's not videotape.
It's digital video.
Yeah. So the
video release.
The released copies are selling and making them all the money because, of course, they won a couple of awards. So.
Now all of a sudden everybody's like, "Oh wait, you won awards?
This was enough to go to the Oscars? What? Yeah."
Yeah, it was a pretty solid sequel.
Yeah.
And then they make Emoji Movie.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Even Patrick.
I feel like Emoji Movie was a series of mistakes.
Yeah.
By many people over
from actors to producers to the people who decided this was going to actually be a good movie.
To the people who made the laws about what is acceptable when it comes to product placement.
Who was it that made Rampage?
I'm not sure. Off the top of my head. Look that up really quick.
Are you talking the game or the movie?
The movie.
Which, by the way, I saw a mini arcade of the Rampage, and I really wanted it, but I didn't have cash on me.
So yeah, that's New Line. So that's Warner Brothers.
That's technically Warner Brothers.
That was
Uwe Boll threatened to sue Warner Bros. for if they didn't change the name.
Really?
To which Warner Brothers gave them the middle finger because screw you, dude.
They promptly gave no shits.
Yep. Because nobody gives a shit about Uwe Boll.
Not to mention that name was technically owned to that license well before he made his movie. So
yeah.
Fight us.
So yeah, that was $120 million budget. It's boxed office, and it's still going at this point. It's boxed 335. That's a moderate success.
Yeah,
it's enough.
New Line.
It's enough that Warner Brothers and New Line are going to be considering making a sequel, which will be total garbage. But yeah,
they'll make the Rampage character as part of Justice League too.
Actually,
I would pay money to see George punch Superman into a building.
No. What'll happen is aren't they the same ones that hold the license for the Godzilla franchise too?
No, that's Legendary Pictures and
But aren't they going through Warner Brothers?
let me check.
That might be a distribution or like I don't. I think they might have had been working together for at least parts of it.
2014 IMDb.
Warner Bros. Distributed it.
Distributed it. Okay, so
except for
technically
Japan.
under Warner Brothers a little bit.
So if Warner Brothers had it, they could possibly sell the rights to Legendary, and we could see Rampage versus King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I actually trust Legendary to actually do a better job.
Okay. Anyway, that was pretty much our Geek Talk section. I don't think we have much more to say there. I am cutting it a little short because we do have a full boat tonight, and we've got a bit to go.
Yeah, in very, very, very short. See Infinity War.
All right.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm trying to hold out till the 22nd so Aaron and I can theater hop.
Mm-hmm.
Go to see Deadpool 2, go to see Infinity Wars, make a day out of it.
I just hope now that Deadpool 2 has a joke about how Josh Brolin is in both movies.
Oh, it probably does. Knowing freaking the things coming out of Deadpool's mouth, it probably does. Especially now that they know that they're getting folded into the MCU somehow.
Yeah.
It probably mention something about it being weird that he's not purple or doesn't have testicles for a chin.
This movie is set up for a sequel, right?
Oh yes.
Okay. I do want to see the next one where they're having a meeting of what to do and something, and in the background, Deadpool comes out, steals their microwave, or nukes a chimichanga and steals their microwave. I so want this to happen.
You keep wanting him to steal a microwave. I don't understand the stealing the microwave. I'd see him maybe nuking something, waving to the camera. And at the end of the scene, he walks out with whatever he was nuking.
Actually, here's a question, and I don't know if there's any way keeping up on the same things to answer this. Well, from what I hear about the current Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because I just finished last season recently and I need to catch up, should I watch Infinity War before I catch up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
No.
I don't know.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is now almost, I believe, fully divorced from the theatrical universe.
Because I heard it was set in a universe created by Thanos.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. This season was leading up to Infinity Wars, but it's not necessarily.
Okay.
It's not. I mean, it's it's divorced in the fact that you can watch the movies
right
without seeing the TV show,
but not vice versa.
The TV show will reference some things from the movie if it's relevant.
I did hear Coulson was going to be in one of the upcoming movies.
Nope. They thought about it and they said no.
Okay.
Not clue.
If he's in there, it's going to be in a flashback. It might be in Miss Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
That's Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, yeah, because that's taking place like way back in like
the 90s,
80s, or the 80s or 90s. So it would be pre-Avengers Coulson. So it'd be that's possible.
Although I would love to see the Avengers get their ass kicked, and Coulson just shows up with the Defenders, like, need a hand.
Yeah, except it won't happen. It won't happen. Nor are they going to get assistance from Daredevil, or the Punisher, or Luke Cage, or Iron Fist, or Jessica Jones. None of them are going to ever be in the Avengers movies. They had thought so originally when they had the concept, but as time went on, they said, no, we're going to keep this separate so that people don't get confused. God damn it, Mark.
I think it's also just like a departmental thing. Like, there's so much shit they'd have to go through to make it happen that they're just like, screw it.
They'll very lightly reference other things, but yeah, they're not going to probably physically cross over, which is really disappointing because it should.
The closest we ever got was the beginning of, I think it was it wasn't Captain America 2. I think it was Avengers 2. Where they're raiding a base in the beginning of Avengers 2, and they say that they got the information from a source. And if you watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you realize that they were the source.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's the closest we ever got to the movies referencing what was going on in the shows. So,
Anyways.
Anyways, that is our Geek Talk section, as I'm repeating myself now.
Yes, now we need to go.
Right. So we've got no rants today, no YouTube thoughts, so we'll move right on to the summary, which is my job.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. One moment. Do I have any? Let me take a drink. Oh, I forgot that was lemonade. It's just suddenly sharp, acrid taste in my mouth. I'm usually drinking fruit punch. All right. So, we begin with a wonderful lighting sweep of a portion of London and the TARDIS materializing right on the street corner. The Doctor comes out, and for the first time we've ever seen him have the foresight to hang an out of order sign on the front of the TARDIS door so no one will actually try to use it as an actual police box. Something he's never done before and something he will never do again. The Doctor then looks around and notices with Dodo that the post office tower has been finished, and he is getting a feeling of dread, something alien from the tower, something he hasn't felt since the Daleks. So, of course, him being the Doctor has to go investigate. He gets to the tower. He's let in, amazingly, considering this is a restricted access building, and gets an interview with a scientist who is building a computer that is basically Skynet. This computer, as we find out, is planning to get hooked up to every other major computer in the world and do all the thinking for them. The Doctor at first doesn't believe that they've built a proper thinking machine, and they ask him to go ahead and try it. And the Doctor does what I consider to be one of the stupidest things imaginable and gives it a math problem to solve. This is what computers do, people. Dodo, however, comes up with a better thing and asks the computer to actually identify what the acronym TARDIS means. And the computer gets it right, which is relatively amazing. They talk about this. Dodo meets the professor's assistant, Polly, who takes Dodo out to a club, where they meet a sailor who's moping at the corner of the bar and promptly gets in a fight within 5 minutes of meeting him. These are our new companions, people. So, Dodo's not feeling too well. She gets a call, at which point she kind of blanks out and disappears. Meanwhile, of course, we have seen that at the post office tower, the Doctor has left to attend to this meeting, that the chief scientist has been hypnotized by the computer by giving off this groaning sound, for lack of a better term, and occasionally sounding like apparently a 200 baud modem trying to make a handshake connection repeatedly. I've heard these modems, people. It sounds like that. And he promptly gets somebody else and gets him hypnotized, and they begin plotting how to take over the world. Only they need somebody, and according to the computer, Doctor Who is required. Where it came up with Doctor Who, we don't know. We would like to know, but we don't know. Anyway, the Doctor has thus, after the professor failed to show for the meeting, has taken off to the club where Dodo is to find out she's not there. He winds up waiting for her for some time, and she eventually shows up around and about 3 a.m, and they bitch at her for disappearing, and she's there basically to get the Doctor kidnapped. She tries to get him to go down this alley where they're planning on basically chloroforming him, but he winds up taking a cab instead, a cab that was originally there by a old bum who, after being forced to pay, goes someplace to sleep off his night in a warehouse. This warehouse is where they're making killer robots to take over the world, and he's promptly killed. The Doctor reads about it in the paper the next day, conveniently also in the next scene, and becomes confused, or becomes concerned. Ben decides to check out this warehouse, and what he sees is them testing these machines. He tries to make it out, but he gets captured. Polly, who has also been taken over by the machines, vouches for him and they try to use him as slave labor. But during some chaos in there, he manages to escape, and she lets him go, and she gets in trouble for it. Ben escapes, tells the Doctor, who promptly warns the government, and they send in the military. And after huge unit-style losses, manage to destroy the machine, or at least get it to shut down. The Doctor takes a look at it, takes a look at the programming, realizes that these machines are all set to go on basically that day at noon. Shortly thereafter, a second machine, also being developed, goes rogue and comes out on the streets of London. The Doctor makes a plan to trap it down an alleyway, as if a thinking computer couldn't think its way out of that. Ben volunteers to hook up the magnetic fields that they're going to be using to shut this thing down, and somehow manages to do it faster than the machine can turn and kill him. The machine is shut down, and the Doctor makes some changes to it, which will promptly send it to turn on its creator. The Doctor needs to do this before noon, and Ben, realizing that he has a little time, goes off to the headquarters in the post office building to save Polly right before the machine comes in and destroys Wotan. Everybody is snapped out of their thought process. People want to say the Doctor, but he has disappeared. Shortly thereafter, back at the TARDIS, the Doctor's there, and Ben and Polly come up to tell him that Dodo is recovering, but will choose to stay in London. The Doctor curses for a bit, and then bids them goodbye and starts to walk into the TARDIS. Polly thinks this is very strange, looking from a distance, and then Ben realizes he's forgotten to give him the key he got from Dodo. They basically use it to walk into the TARDIS just as it's about to take off. And we can assume at that point that Ben will shortly be declared AWOL from his post. The end.
6 minutes, 20 seconds.
Oh, wow. I thought it'd be longer than that. All right.
One slight correction that I will make, because I don't know why I remember this, but I think it was actually that when he was handing his
coat to Ben, the key fell on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he says at the end it's the key he got from Dodo. I was not sure where that discrepancy came from.
Error, I guess.
Yes, there is a continuity error.
Actually, this episode is full of kinds of weird continuity errors.
You can list those later, as we are going to go to our likes and dislikes, as we have a full boat. So what we liked about the episode, and Thomas.
I had a few different things actually, but I am just going to go with the acting but I'm going to go with the acting in general, because damn, as weird as it sounds, I was actually kind of blown away by some of the acting in this, like how good it was. Especially Ben was like, when that machine's coming down on him, it's like he really sells that. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really makes me wish more of his episodes had survived.
Mm-hmm. Apparently he can act it, yeah.
Yeah, because we only see him in 10th Planet. Then we Power's missing. Highlanders is missing. Trying to remember the rest of the first season, because I think all of it's missing at this point. And they leave at the end of it. Power's missing. Highlanders is missing. Underwater Menace is missing. I think episode 2, is the only one that's still there. The moon base is all there except for one part, and they've reanimated that, so we get to see that.
And I believe that's the one where they bedridden him for a while, don't they?
No, they get rid of Jamie for a while.
That's right, it's Jamie.
Yeah,
Never mind.
because they didn't plan on having him in that episode.
The Macra Terror is completely missing. The Faceless Ones is partly missing, and that's their departure episode. So we'll be dealing with that later.
According to the wiki, apparently it takes place at the same time as this episode.
It does. And I mean, technically speaking, apparently, from what I read, is the fact that they're basically that happens on the same day. So
What happens on the same
basically,
day?
the Faceless Ones with
Okay.
Patrick Troughton is going on the same day as this, because apparently when they depart, and we will deal with this in a couple of weeks. When they depart, apparently they're basically able to resume their lives right where they left off, even though
That had
they've
better explain why the countermeasures group wasn't here.
except that hadn't even been thought up yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely didn't exist yet.
But it's a shame that
Excuses.
that of those, like, what is it, 5-6 episodes?
Mm.
It's a shame that only about 2 or 3 of them are even viewable.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you don't really see much of what Ben can act in 10th Planet, and I
Mhm.
don't see too much of him in Moonbase. So
And
I
you
think
wouldn't really, and even though they've animated Power of the Daleks, it's animated, so you don't
you
get
can't
to
really
see his actual.
you can't see how he's responding.
Hmm.
You're watching an animated recreation, which is the downside of the animated episodes, but they're better than nothing at all.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tell me, Thomas, that you wouldn't rather be watching an animated version of, say, the Savages or the Highlanders than just freaking telesnaps.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So yeah, the acting is really good. Tim, your thoughts. What did you like about this episode, Serial?
I really liked how the Doctor didn't have to the burden of like dealing with unreasonable Earth government types, and
Yeah,
how yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead, Tim.
I agree with that, Tim. I understand what you're saying there. Like the scene where he tells them to call out the military, and first the guy is poo-pooing it, and then calls up his boss. It's like, what? Send out the military? Okay.
Yeah, like apparently it's touch and go with the Doctor. It's like sometimes the Doctor's like giving orders. In some serials, it's like, who the hell is this guy? And other times, it's like apparently the Doctor has access to top secret military bases and can go wherever he wants.
Well, yeah, unless your last name is Stewart, you're gonna poo-poo whatever the Doctor does. I think that's kind of the clue, because, and I don't think the Brigadier was that plausible towards him in the beginning, and the Snowmen, but by the invasion, he's right there. It's like, okay, whatever you say. And the Doctor, and I mean, he gets exasperated sometimes, but he does it. And you see that all through the Third Doctor era. But he's usually the only one. Every other military figure turns out to be frustratingly closed-minded and refuses to do anything. So yeah, it's nice to see them actually not closing themselves off to the Doctor just because he's an outsider in this. It's kind of the reverse of what you'd normally see. Sorry if I talked you over, Tim, but it was something that that was something that I had actually pointed out to myself when that happened. It was just like, oh wow, that's different.
And I'm thinking like it might have been the opposite if this serial had been longer. Like
Probably.
Yeah, they would need something to waste time.
This was 4 episodes, so it was an average run for Doctor Who. Not at the time, when serials could run 6 to 12 episodes and they didn't care. But yeah, these days this would have been an average Doctor Who run. Well, not these days, but following from like the second season of the Third Doctor onwards, that was an average run.
Anything else, Tim?
No, that's it.
Okay, Aaron.
I actually enjoyed the character of Polly in this. I thought that she's quite sympathetic. She was able to kind of, she wasn't quite fighting her way through the mind control, but she instinctively still kind of kept some moral compass by letting Ben escape. And I liked her interaction with Dodo and trying to get Dodo out and trying to take care of her and everything like that. She came off as kind of the big sister figure, and just kind of the caring sort for the whole TARDIS crew.
And unfortunately, we wouldn't get to see that past the second episode because Dodo would, of course, leave and not come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would have been nice to see that. I wonder if we get to, if the episodes that are missing, we would have gotten to see that towards Jamie or not. Since I've never actually even listened to the Highlanders, I think next week's going to be interesting.
Well, that's going to be 2 weeks, but...
Is it?
Actually, no, wait. That's right. No, never mind. Yeah, that'll be next week.
Yeah, I was going to say the Highlanders is next on our list.
I'm sorry. I'm mixing up times. Never mind.
Yeah. So yeah, it would be interesting to see if that particular mentality continues through or not.
The Highlanders plural, but there can only be one.
Yeah.
There can be only one or two.
Thank you for ruining my closing joke, Bill. Oh, okay. So, anything else, Aaron?
No, that's pretty much it for me.
Matt, how about you?
I think, and this is a big highlight for me, I think this is possibly the first episode where the Doctor was this likable. I mean, he's had shining moments up to this point, but this is like the official point where I think, for me, the whole heel turn into full-on grandpa defending the universe mode kicks in.
It either happened sometime between the last one and this one.
Yeah, it started definitely kicking in by the last one, but this one, it's in full-on.
I mean, there's a lot of things that are very typical Doctor to this day that you see in this episode.
Yes, and it just shows that William Hartnell finally got to officially put his stamp on it.
His whole thing, he comes out of the TARDIS and it's like, there's something off about that. I'm going to have to find out. And it's, it's not because that's interesting, I need to investigate it. There's something evil there.
There's something not right, yeah. And
right.
as a doctor, he has to investigate.
He's like, smells like Daleks here.
Yes.
Also, just a little tongue-in-cheek witticism as he pulls out the out-of-service sign.
Like I said, foresight that he never had before and will never have again.
For some reason.
Yeah, if you think about, say even as late as what was that one? The Idiot's Lantern, where he's in, what was it, 1950s England?
Yeah, that would be a time when actually that would have been smart.
Yes. Never happens.
Too busy running around on a scooter.
He was too busy flirting in that episode. Yeah. He was on a date.
Yeah, I pulled out the Idiot's Lantern because it's the only modern Who episode that happens other than Victory of the Daleks, where everybody knew he was the Doctor and arrived in the TARDIS.
I was going to mention that one, yeah. And, Let's Kill Hitler, there's no police boxes in Germany.
Correct. That's the only modern Who episode that happens in a time where police boxes are contemporary to the location. I mean, technically speaking, there's also 1930s New York, but again, no police boxes in New York.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But bring this back around. Yeah, I just love how truly the Doctor is for this particular story.
There were several scenes I'm like, oh my god, that's classic. I think where it really hit me, by the way, Matt, is when he's talking about magnetically trapping the war machine. And then he's like, yeah, and of course, yes, that's going to be very dangerous, so I'll do that myself.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my god, that's textbook.
It's going to be very dangerous, so I'm going to do it myself.
Yes, it's like, that's textbook Doctor before there's a textbook.
That and that one episode finale where he steps forward towards the war machine as it's closing in on him.
Yeah, it's that same he just goes temper. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, that scene too. The scene with the field, but also the end of that episode where he did that set up fire. The military just ran away, and he's actually slowly stepping towards the war machine as it closes in before the ending credits.
There was one scene where he did that future doctors would not be willing to do what he did, but I think that was only one scene.
Oh, do tell me.
It's people are he sends the war machine into where the brainwashed people are, knowing that they'll probably get in the way and get killed to stop Wotan, I think.
I'm not sure he knew that knowingly, but
yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
I basically shoved that off as the fact that he was really operating on a time limit.
Yeah, and I think he says that out loud during the scene too, because somebody suggested something else to him, and he's like, "This needs to happen by noon."
That needs to happen at noon. We don't have any other choices.
Yeah, it's like, so it was slapdash and sloppy, but it's what he could do with what the resources he had at the time.
I was just thinking, like a David Tennant episode, there would have been at least 2 minutes of the Doctor looking forlorn and wishing that he could save the hypnotized people.
Or the Fifth Doctor going, there should be a better way.
Yeah.
There's a couple of doctors that would have to agree that there's no other choice right now, sadly, and then there's a couple other doctors that would get even more morbidly depressed than others about it.
And then there's Colin Baker who just go, an acceptable loss, and go on.
I'm very sorry.
Did you see how magnificent I was doing that?
Baker, if anything, was the reincarnation of the first Doctor with a worse fashion sense. So.
And a bigger ego. Because it would have been, yes, an acceptable loss. And did you see how awesome I am doing it?
We say this, how many weeks ago did we cover the one where he let somebody call him Zeus because he had too much of an ego to say, no, I'm not a god until it was too late?
Was that wasn't last week, that was 2 weeks ago.
A few weeks ago.
That's a more subtle ego, though, than Colin Baker's, which is in your face. I'm wonderful, He's like, oh, if you want to call me Zeus, okay, I'll play the role. In this one, Colin Baker is just like, I'm perfect. It's just like
people died. It happens. I'm sorry, but it does happen. And
a tragedy, I'm sure, but losses were inevitable. It's like, no, that's not something the Doctor would say. It's something Colin Baker would say. Fuck that. Anyway. But yeah, I think that was just because he was time crunched, couldn't find another way fast enough. But yes, Matt, I do agree with you. He seems the most doctorish that we've ever seen the first Doctor.
Yep.
All right, so that was Matt. Bill, how about you? What did you like about the episode overall?
What have we gotten through so far? Because I had to step out from it.
Enjoyed the acting. Enjoyed the first Doctor being the most Doctor he's ever been. And what was the other one? Oh, the politicians actually agreed with the Doctor for a change.
Yep.
Yeah, and not arguing with the Doctor over every single thing he needs to do. And Aaron really liked Polly being kind of the big sister role.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I did have one, and it's a little overlapped with Aaron, but I don't think so much that I can't say. And I think this is the only episode where I've really seen Ben and Polly have a personality beyond just being the companion flavor of the week. Like, they're actually, have roles, they're doing things, they have emotions, and I don't think I've seen that in another episode.
Yeah, that kind of goes a little bit on what Thomas said, in the fact that the acting in particular of Ben in this was amazing. And that's kind of why I kind of went off on this. Was there any other, the problem is most of the Ben and Polly serials are missing.
It's partially the acting and partially every other story I've seen, their job is for Ben to be the doubting Thomas, Polly to be the clever one. Basically the same thing that's been going on since Susan and Ian left. I mean, since Ian and Barbara left. And that's been mainly about it for their writing in other episodes that I've seen.
What other episodes have you seen?
10th Planet and whatever ones we've reviewed mainly. I don't think I've seen any that we haven't reviewed.
10th Planet, Power of the Daleks.
I did watch The Smugglers once, but I literally remember nothing that happened in it, so that doesn't really count.
Okay, so the ones that we reviewed are 10th Planet, Power, and Moonbase. Of the Ben and Polly's.
And to be honest, the Moonbase focused more on the second Doctor for change on an episode.
Yep. So all of those are basically the only things that are actually available for Ben and Polly that are not telesnapped audios.
So it gives us very small range.
Yeah, every other Ben and Polly story is missing.
Mm-hmm.
Because after this was Smugglers.
Which I think is all telesnaps, which is probably
Smugglers
partially why I
gone.
don't remember anything that happened in it. I was probably distracted.
Smugglers is completely gone. 10th Planet is mostly there, but missing its 4th episode. Power is completely missing, but has been recreated in animation, but you can't tell acting in animation.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to hope the animators are good.
Highlanders is completely missing. Underwater Menace is half missing. Moonbase is half missing, but they've reanimated the missing parts.
Mm-hmm.
Macroterra, completely missing. Faceless Ones, partly missing. And that was the ones that Ben and Polly left. So you don't really get a good sampling of whether they had any real character other than this, which
I'm hoping in the Faceless Ones there's at least some character writing for them, even if we won't be able to see the acting.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, yeah, that'll be a real question mark.
With an umbrella on it?
All right, so what I really liked here, let's see, what's left? I think this is the kind of story, I have seen this very same kind of story before in Doctor Who. Well, I should say seen it after in Doctor Who.
Right.
It becomes kind of a trope that you've got the evil computer trying to take things over. You see it in the Green Death. You see it in the Face of Evil. You see it a few other places too that I can't think of off the top of my head. Probably you see it a couple times in New Who too. But this is the original. This is the the creator of the trope, the genre.
This is technically the original trope that would later invent Terminator.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is before Star Trek did anything like it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because this would be about a year before Star Trek hit the air. This would be 2 years before the Ultimate Computer.
Yeah.
At least a year before Nomad. Yeah. I think possibly, there might have been some 1930s or 40s serials that had a similar theme, but
there might have been a rare sci-fi serial, yeah, but otherwise,
yeah,
as far as
I'm aware,
the mainstream pop culture geek references can remember at the moment offhand,
this is the originator, and that makes it kind of special to me.
Actually, I can think of only one other movie. Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's a little bit half and half. But this is the original, the robot's totally on its own. In Metropolis, it was still taking orders from one human.
Yeah.
Yeah. This even happened 2 years before Ultron was a thing in Marvel Comics.
Yep. This is the originator for most of the modern stuff, and for that, it has a special place in my heart.
And has a special place in sci-fi.
Yeah. I mean, I think this would even be before Lost in Space would do it. So hey.
Yeah, Lost in Space I don't think came around until after Star Trek started.
It was around the same time.
So.
They were on the boards at the same time. I know that's the reason CBS turned down Star Trek originally, was because they already were planning
something. Yeah.
Okay, so what didn't we like about this episode, Serial? What actually bothered us a little? And Thomas, you're first.
Thankfully, there isn't really much that I didn't like, so I'm just going to go with the obvious, and that's the fact that Dodo gets written off so unceremoniously.
Curses!
And the funny thing is it was the one thing that I was like, okay, I have to look this up because I have to know why. And I mean, it's wiki, so grain of salt, but basically it seems that the people, running the show were like, oh, well, clearly the character's not working, so we'll just not renew her contract, and her contract ran out in episode 2.
Well,
of the serial.
apparently, according to the interview at the beginning of The Savages, there was also a policy by the new producer not to keep a companion over a year.
Yep.
Actually, I don't know how long she had been
So
in.
her contract was probably immediately for only a year.
She'd apparently been in 6 stories and 19 episodes all up.
So not
Okay.
quite a year, but probably renewing the contract would have gone over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the War Machines aired in 25 June 1966. So based on that, we can therefore say that it was July 2nd that episode 2 happened.
And I think Dodo started in January.
What was her serial that she started
February.
The
apparently.
Massacre.
in? The Massacre. Thank you. I'm going
Last
backwards.
episode.
The very last episode of The Massacre.
The
would
actress,
have
I think,
been-
was in the whole serial, though, right? Just the character was only the last episode.
No, she
No,
shows up.
she only just showed up for the last episode.
Because any version I've
The
read
French
said
girl was a
thought
different
there was
actress.
another character that Dodo was the descendant of. That was in the whole
Annette
serial.
Robertson played Anne Chaplet, not Jackie Lane.
Yeah, we covered this in that episode. It's
Mhm.
not the same actress. It's hard for us to tell because we only got audio. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, so that happened on 26th of February. So, yeah, she was only there for 6 months. They terminated her contract early.
Yeah, like
They must have really not liked her for some reason.
yeah, like it seems like you could have at least renewed her contract for episode 4 to have her come back just to have a proper goodbye.
Well, apparently they weren't willing to budge on that. They're just like, yeah, I think we're
you
done.
actually see her, because like, you know, at least that way, like I could get not having her in episode 3 because it's like, oh, you know,
What
she's
do
at
we
least
do?
not there.
Can't
but
get the paperwork
there's
done
all this
time.
other
Yeah.
shit. Yeah. But with episode 4, you could have got her back for at least that, just to give her a proper send off. It's like it just seems so stupid.
Okay, so here's a little interesting tidbit, by the way, just a side tidbit. Jackie Lane, who plays Dodo, would go on after Doctor Who to be a theatrical agent. Does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
She would represent Tom Baker,
Oh.
Nicholas Courtney,
Oh.
and Janet Fielding, who would play Tegan Jovanka, and who would later go on to be a theatrical agent representing Paul McGann.
So
Slow clap.
what Jackie Lane's side of the story was. She basically said that it seems Innes Lloyd had a plan for the series and Dodo didn't work in, but she got her revenge because when Innes Lloyd came to her to find him work, she was like, "No, you sacked me from Doctor Who."
Yep, I could just see her sitting there listening to why Innes Lloyd should get work, and her just raising the middle finger. To it.
Just her just slowly nodding, smiling, and then at the last minute, karma's a bitch, and walks out.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, her departure was kind of abrupt, and that was annoying.
And very forced, yes.
Yep. Tim, how about you? What did you dislike about it?
I didn't like how nothing ultimately became of the Doctor Who is required.
I'm glad nothing came of it. This is, of course, the second. The Doctor Who is required, by the way, is a absolute mistake on the part of the writers, and should have not made it past the script editor's desk.
Yeah, that's a huge facepalm moment.
Especially kind of odd because this isn't the first serial this writer had done for Doctor Who.
And he should know better.
Yeah, it just kind of reminds me. It's one of those things that everybody annoys. It's just everybody else. And there's a fan kind of kayfabe explanation for it. The one that fans have kind of sandwiched in there, and the fact that the Wotan couldn't find the doctor's name, so it just put who at the end of it.
See, my thought was, well, if Wotan knew what TARDIS meant and called him Doctor Who, maybe Wotan breaks the fourth wall.
It's quite possible.
It is like I
In
was
the future, there'll be this creation called Deadpool. He is hilarious.
rather
I was gonna
optimistically
say it's-
hoping that there would be a really cool information explanation why Wotan referred to him as Doctor Who and like what he was required for.
No, because it's.
Oh, you
well,
record they wanted to like transplant his brain, I think, which is weird because
Probably.
we just had a serial last week where they wanted the Doctor's intelligence.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they wanted his intelligence, but not like sucking through a straw. They wanted his tactical planning to help plan the War Machine invasion. Basically, they wanted him to be able to help them build the War Machines faster and better, and they were still going to try to take over his mind. But unfortunately, he resisted the mind control. And after that, they just dropped it, which was what I disliked about it, was that there wasn't any other chance to try to reacquire the Doctor.
Right.
They just gave up after that. It's like, oh, nope, can't work.
So essentially,
That's another plot that they would definitely use again about trying to take the Doctor's mind or intelligence for things.
Well, it was a frequent trope to try to get Hartnell out of the
Mhm.
thing for when he was
I
having
mean,
one of
shoot,
his fits.
even as
Mhm.
late as Matt Smith, that's happening. I don't remember if it ever happened with Capaldi.
By the way, you remember the 10th planet? You remember that collapse that the Doctor had in the 10th planet?
I was about to say it's unscripted.
It was unscripted. He basically telegraphed into work that day that he was unable to come in due to illness.
Mm.
hmm
So they just quickly rewrote the script to film around it, and gave most of his lines to Ben and Polly.
So actually, that plot line does remind me a lot of the whole trying to get his intelligence things. Reminds me a lot of Destiny of the Daleks. Because that's
Oh,
when the evil the I forget what they're called now. Movellans. That's when the Movellans were trying to get the Doctor's intelligence to help fight the Daleks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you when you're trying to do anything like that, you do want to co-opt the mind of the greatest mind on the planet.
True.
And that's the Doctor at the moment. Just most of the people on Earth didn't realize it. Wotan did.
People always think that they can beat the best mind of the planet in order to get his brain.
That's of
an
course
issue.
overestimating themselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That best mind is already probably looking at them going, I see you.
Best mind except for mine. Then why do you need his? Because I'm networked all over the place. Fuck you. Okay. So, all right, Aaron, how about you? What did you dislike about it?
Don't really have anything generally that I disliked. I mean, other than Dodo's disappearance. So I'm going to take a pass on that. I do have a scene I disliked, though.
Okay. Matt, how about you?
I'm going to go with continuity issues. There's a huge thing that does actually show up in this one quite a bit. There's the
Examples.
weird...
Examples.
There's the weird stubbing of the toe where Dodo just disappears, and that's an odd continuity hiccup. There's the fact that the Doctor is allowed into some place by just literally signing. Why did he even sign? They're not even going to show us. Because he had to sign in some sort of book in order to get into the radio tower, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think what other. We mentioned the key earlier where it would drop a coat, whereas they said they got it off of Dodo, which is There's the whole calling the Doctor Doctor Who, which is technically part of that as well. There's a lot of weird little things that just don't quite mesh up, and for an otherwise really great episode, it just kind of gives it a hint of that's odd, and it takes you out of a few good moments here and there.
It didn't really bother me that much.
I remember noticing them even when the first time.
Other than the Doctor Who thing, which does annoy the hell out of me.
Mm.
And other ones I got nitpicky of when I was doing the story, the summary, just because I felt like it.
But they are really weird hiccups that normally aren't as prevalent in these episodes, but it showed up here of all places.
As for why they could have let him in, it's quite possible that particular day they had an opening for the public, as celebrating the grand opening of the tower, which was happening at about that
time. Maybe,
time.
but kind of marched in like with a sense of authority pretty quickly.
He's the Doctor. He does that.
I suppose, but
that's one thing Doctor Who teaches you. If you act like you belong somewhere, people assume you do.
Maybe.
It could be possible that the people on the Wotan project were expecting scientists to come up and look at it prior to the meeting.
Maybe.
So that he signed it, the Doctor, and that, okay, he must be with the Wotan group. Got it. All right. So, Bill, how about you?
So mine is definitely a nitpick that I wouldn't choose if we didn't have a full cast, but it ages kind of poorly. Oh my God, a machine that fills up a whole room that can figure out a square root.
Yeah, I know.
Ask it, and take a while to print it out. Whew,
Yeah, I know.
it's still my heart.
They got it right though. I was running Microsoft Calculator and did it before they did.
Exactly my point. Or just saying, okay, Google, what's the square root of?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this entire computer behind these two gentlemen here is what you were required to do math back in the day.
Right.
At the time, it is happening in that period.
But that's true. But I'm just like, the phone in my hand right now has more power than all of Wotan and all of his backup processors.
Yep. I mean, it is happening in that period. They did sync this episode very specifically with the opening of the post office tower.
And and if they had done it in like 2066, it would not be a nitpick. It would be a problem. But in 1966, it's
that'd be a huge issue.
Mm-hmm. And that is the thing. What they considered a supercomputer in those days is what we run a freaking pocket calculator on. What they needed a whole room to do, we hold in our hands and use it to check our math. That's
hell. What they took a whole room to do for checking math is now what we can now fit like 20 times that into something in our hand.
Well, yeah. I mean, you think about the advancement of computer technology. You even think about the advancement of computer technology compared to 20 years ago. We're talking the 90s. Mind you, the most popular way to connect to the internet in the 90s was a dial-up modem. Who here remembers dial-up?
Me.
So I was one of the few people in 1998 to actually have a high-speed connection. And that was because my mother worked for the University of Wisconsin and paid for Ethernet in her house.
Mm.
I remember how fast it felt the first time we got Comcast internet.
I remember
and
how
you could
fast
talk
it
on
felt
the phone at the same time.
It felt normal for me because at that point I was working for the UW-Madison, and I basically was physically attached to the network backbone from my station.
I remember blowing my mind in 2003 when I came to Madison and had something that wasn't dial-up for the first time ever.
Yep. But no, I mean, I sat there my nights attached to a 100 Mbps connection. The only thing that was limiting it was the power of my Ethernet card.
Oh, you want to know what else still pisses me off, though? Is that, like, not even 3 months later, my parents suddenly get the same kind of internet.
Yeah, but other than that, that's complete tangent, Matt. Anyway.
Yeah. Both of us are tangenting. Back to the question.
So, yeah, but you think about that. You think about, like, how much hard drive space there was. A gigabyte of space in the 90s was huge.
Was that such a thing?
Unheard of.
Yeah, it was amazing. Oh, yeah, it was. It was. I think I had a 1.2 gigabyte hard drive in 1998. and it was big because it was cutting edge. And of course, it read as a gigabyte, but anyway, that was a huge amount. And then, of course, the 2000s went on, and suddenly there was 10 gigabyte drives and 100 gigabyte drives and terabyte drives. And now even a terabyte's not that big anymore. So, technology has increased exponentially. And it has been for decades. So, yeah, the fact that in 1966 they needed a computer the size of a room to calculate the square root of a 4-digit number versus, what it could do now. And they knew that computers had this amazing ability. That's why the fear came up of things like Wotan, like the boss.
Skynet.
Like Skynet. Yeah, I was getting there.
It's like that meme, the 90s, saving the world with 1.6 megabytes.
It's the question, what happens when the computers start thinking and humanity stops? Well, it's already too late. We've already stopped thinking. I mean, look at international politics right now. Yeah.
Too many have already stopped thinking to start bashing their faces against keyboards, shouting at each other.
Yeah. But, so, it's always been that little some fear of what happens when computers take a really close look at humanity and decide, well, this is a waste.
Crush it.
Speaking of which, when were Asimov's active years?
Isaac Asimov. He was active in the 60s. I can't remember.
So it would have been too soon to reference him without copyright infringement.
Oh, yeah. Isaac Asimov was pretty much active from 1930s, 1940s, and he was pretty much active up to the point he died, pretty much. He suffered a heart attack in 1977.
I was say it was probably late 70s.
And he had triple bypass in 1983. Contracted HIV from a blood transfusion from the same surgery. And he eventually died in 1992. Yeah. But
would not stop, would he?
As far as I know, he was active throughout most of that.
Gotcha.
After his first heart attack, though, he mostly lent his name to other people's works. But yeah, before that, he was doing, and I think he at least wrote. He wrote. His last novel was 1992, Forward the Foundation. So he was still writing the Foundation series pretty much up to the point he died.
So unless they wanted to hire him to write Doctor Who, the 3 laws were not appearing.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, we can mention those now because those are Asimov's gift to humanity. But it would have been a little bit to mention it back in 1967 when Asimov was still. When did he actually write the Foundation series?
Anyways, we're kind of tangenting.
No, I want to know if the laws of robotics had actually been created by the time that this came out. Yes, they had. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
Because that's the huge big ass trope is the laws of robotics. Okay. So that's up to me on what I disliked about the serial, and only thing I can say is I hated Wotan's sound.
Oh, that's another thing too. Yeah, once in a while, Wotan was just completely inaudible.
Yeah, he was illegible.
Yeah, agreed.
Illegible, yeah.
I mean, I could hear him sometimes, and really, he just sounded like an ice warrior when he talked.
Kind of.
But the rest of the time, he was like, it sounded like he was speaking in Klingon. I couldn't tell, It was just bad, and I can't tell if it's because of audio quality or if it was just that bad to start with. I'm starting to think the former. Okay, so that's what we disliked. Favorite scene, Thomas?
Ooh, I'm going to. It's a close race, but I'm going to go with the opening of. I'm pretty sure it is episode 3, where it's a continuation of Ben having been cornered by the
robot.
by the robot, and having run away, and then they've caught him, and then like Polly's not doing anything, and then they fade out, and there's nothing, and they don't come back to him for a while. Because I was like, oh my god, that should have been. I almost wish that the previous episode had been longer, just so they could have that entire bit.
I think they
And
wanted to and probably had to cut for time, and they pissed them off, but
Probably,
they didn't
yeah.
have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because
but that was.
that whole scene looked like it was built up to be an ending like that, and they didn't quite make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was a little disappointing, and if they had cut it differently, it would have been fucking perfect. You would have been sitting on the edge of your seat, for a week. Oh my
Yeah.
god! But no, they had to cut it. Fuck.
Mm.
All right, Tim, how about you?
I think it was the ending of episode 2 where the Doctor stands up against the War Machine. Or was that episode 3?
Episode 3, I think.
3.
Yeah.
It would have been 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I got confused. But that was just a big badass moment for the Doctor.
It's one of his first true epic moments of badassery, I think.
Mm.
I just loved the look of grim determination on Hartnell's face.
First of many by the Doctor, yes.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, how about you? What was your favorite scene?
I kind of like Polly in the bar. I think it's like episode 1 or
Yeah, it's
something
episode 1 when Polly met Ben.
Yeah, Polly met Ben, and she's trying to cheer him up and everything. I thought that was pretty cool. It showed that she didn't really know this person at all, and he could be a dangerous drunk for all she knew, and she was still willing to go out on a limb and talk to him and try to be friendly with him. So it also showed kind of an innocence for the 60s.
Yeah.
As well.
Mm.
Yeah, these days you'd see somebody like that. It's like, is he a serial killer, a rapist?
Is he gonna whip out a gun and shoot me in the head? Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, didn't he also have a hat in that scene?
Yeah.
I didn't know he had the sailor hat going on for quite a bit
Yeah,
of
he
it.
had a sailor hat, but that doesn't mean
Okay, so
in
he
the
had
60s,
the sailor.
it was instant enough to mean yes, he was.
Okay, so he had the sailor hat. That means he's probably not a rapist, but yeah.
Yeah. Probably.
But is he the gruff guy that doesn't want any kind of attention, or is he going to be the kind of guy who's actually going to be mellow?
All right. Oh yeah, I liked that scene as well, and I was wondering if somebody was going to pick it, and of course, it wound up being you. All right, Matt, your favorite scene?
Favorite scene? There's a couple of things I liked, but if I'm going to bring it down to one scene, it was definitely the Doctor coming up with his plan and going, and since this is dangerous, I'm going to be there. And he was just taking like zero. No, how about us? No, I'm going to do this. This is my plan.
And then Ben overrode him, but yeah. Still, it did show Ben making companion material right there.
Yes, yeah, that was actually Ben stepping in slightly to show companion material, and the Doctor's like, okay.
All right, Bill, how about you? Favorite scene?
I'm going to go with the counter hypnosis. And I was sitting there wondering why he never used it again. Then I realized that I don't think we ever saw Dodo again after this. So maybe he was afraid that would happen with Joe or something if he tried it.
Quite possibly. Also, different kinds of hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have access to a Metabelus 3 crystal to do it the right way this time.
True.
Right.
But yeah, I do like that because that was definitely something we hadn't seen before. But for my favorite scene, I think I have to go to that initial scene where they're stepping out of the TARDIS. And he looks up at that tower and just goes, "There's something evil there. It feels like Daleks." What are Daleks? You weren't there for those, so don't worry about it. But we've got to go check this out. Yeah, it's like absolutely. It's like, wow, this feels like an actual. It feels almost like a modern Who episode. Yes.
Little footprints.
All right. Your least favorite scene. Scene you like the least, Thomas.
That's actually hard. Um, you know what? I'm actually gonna pass because I can't. I honestly can't think of anything.
All right, Thomas takes a pass. Tim, how about you?
This might be cheating a bit because it's not technically in the episode, but the scene where Dodo decides to stay in London.
Hmm.
Well, the fact that he gets the news really kind of lamely, just
Yeah.
Like, where's Dodo? I almost left without her. Oh, Innes Lloyd told her she can't come on the TARDIS anymore.
Dodo can't come out and play anymore, Doctor.
It's like, but she sends her love. Love? Yeah. What is this love?
Miss no longer appearing in this television program.
Yeah. Dodo? Who's Dodo? We don't remember a Dodo. No. She was all in your mind, Doctor.
Yes, now I think about it, this is what I would have said, but I think I wanted to leave it to someone else because it was my own.
I know what love is.
All right. Aaron, how about you? Least favorite scene?
I'm gonna go ahead with the melee in the labor area. Where we see multiple cuts. The thing is that it wasn't entirely the episode's fault. It was the fact that they were missing chunks of it, and so they had to sit there and reuse footage over and over again. They were missing a few seconds here and there of footage, so they had to do that, and they even added digital smoke effects in order to try to differentiate the scenes. So
yeah. Well, the problem is that episodes 3 and 4 were really piecemealed together. And I mean really piecemeal together. They were taken a bit from here, a bit from there, a bit from the other place. And then they had the full, complete dialogue, I think from the same guy that we actually did a news article about a few weeks back. And he went, okay, so this is the right timing. This is everything. Let's sync up voices and everything, and let's get the track right. And okay, we're missing this, and this. What do we do? Okay, that's pretty much how those got spliced back together. And some of the footage they were using was from Australia, which, we've mentioned that in Australia are
it's
footage
heavily,
Nazis.
Heavily edited, so.
And it's weird because some of the pieces that they got back from it, this is how weird Australia edits are. Some of the pieces that they got back to put in from the stuff that Australia... Yeah, that Australia took out was from Blue Peter.
Which was, it's a children's show.
So the stuff that Australia said, we can't show this, it's too violent. BBC is, let's put this on a children's show for 7-year-olds.
By the way, our source for this is the Reconstruction documentary, so off of the DVD.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
silly is silly.
Yep. But yeah, so that's why Australia is censor Nazis. I don't know why. I don't know how.
Just go crazy and randomly ban things.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Then again, the UK has a few weird moments like that too. Like they banned the word ninja.
All right. So Matt, how about you? Least favorite scene?
Least favorite scene. It's kind of similar to what Aaron was talking about, but it's a different scene. I want to say it was the end of the second episode where we did that close up of the Doctor. A few moments before that, we were seeing the War Machine terrorizing and wrecking stuff.
And end of the third episode.
Oh, that's the end of the third episode. Okay, I was
end of the second episode is the prototype War Machine cornering Ben. So.
Okay. But before the whole epic closing in thing, and before it rampaged through all this burning rubble, we just see him getting stuck behind burning rubble, and it's just okay. Really, you couldn't just have him push through before the fire started, or give him enough space that they could walk through with him a little more easily. But then you have to cut away, hard cut for a few minutes, and then come back so we didn't recognize that everything got moved. Thanks, show. This big, muscular, beefy, I'm gonna punch everything robot suddenly can't get beyond a little bit of burning crates.
Well, as an aside, I have no idea how they propelled those things.
I assumed there's a person inside of it. It's big enough.
I'm not sure if it was or not, but yeah, because there was actual. It looked like there were tank treads on the bottom, but that could have been some very interesting artwork. But yeah.
Especially since there is like one shot that I was like, did they actually speed that up? Because that's moving pretty fast for a person being inside it.
Yeah, I was wondering if they had giant like radio control for those things because they moved ungainly enough that they could have.
We should they put a Dalek operator inside it, and then put in a box on top.
What you don't know is you take the War Machine and you peel it off, and there's a smaller War Machine in there. You take that off, and there's a smaller War Machine off, and you take that off, and it's K9.
Only problem with that is they hadn't built K9 yet.
I know.
And I'm pretty sure they move more smoothly.
I wouldn't know about that. Okay, so was that Matt's?
Yeah,
I think that's Matt. Okay, Bill.
So I'm going to say the scene where Dodo came back and finished her arc because it never bleeding happened, and therefore her subplot just ploofed off the face of the earth. Which I kept being like, oh, is that Dodo? No, it's Polly. Is that Dodo? No, it's Polly. It's that Dodo? No, it's a War Machine.
No.
What we didn't, what they didn't tell us is the fact that Dodo, while all this was going on, Dodo felt better, went back to the club, met some guy, got really drunk,
and died of syphilis.
and is now in London with 6 kids. You don't know.
No, that is like that was a long running theory. It's pretty much been disproven now, but there was a theory that she had contracted syphilis and died. Like apparently one of the books or audio or some weird shit.
I would not be shocked if it
she
was an
has
Ace
done
Doctor
audio.
novel because that's how they rolled.
Yeah, it was like Who Killed Kennedy novel or something, but then she was also supposedly killed while pregnant with some journalist's baby after she was bounced around to psychiatric hospitals and left homeless on the street.
Yeah, the novels treated some of the companions really horribly. And not the ones that deserved it. Anyway. Yeah, so that's my thought on that. Least favorite scene for me. The problem is I really like this serial, so I don't think of anything that particularly, other than the Doctor Who was required.
How about the modem sound?
The modem sound was constant. I can't nail that down to any scene. But I think I have to go with the Doctor Who is required because I remember watching this serial for the first time and going, really? Really?
Well,
and I was like 8.
They used the Doctor Who moniker before too, like during Pertwee's one of Pertwee's stories.
But that was only in the title credits. It was.
And that was a mistake. If you're talking about Silurians, that was a mistake.
Yeah, Doctor Who and the Silurians. Yeah, that was an actual mistake, and they acknowledged that it was a mistake. But it was too late. The serial was already in the can, and But this is also a mistake, and they acknowledge it's a mistake. It still annoys me because it's in the actual fucking footage. I can forgive a fuck up in the title. All that means is some little production schmo that's the guy that's making titles needs to be replaced. But when you've got something like this that's written into the story, the writer fucks it up. It gets sent to the script editor. The script editor fucks it up. It gets sent to the stars. The stars don't point it out.
I was gonna say,
and the director doesn't look at it and go, what the fuck?
I don't know if the stars ever saw it, but I'm sure whoever played Wotan was too much of too low on the food chain to want to ruffle feathers, even if they did notice it.
But you would have think somebody would have seen it at the read-through and gone, "What the fuck?" You know?
Did they do read-throughs in Doctor Who at this point?
Can't. I actually don't know. I actually don't know. I know they did as of the 80s, but
Right. Like, I have a feeling it.
I know they did as of the 70s because I
get
remember
the
seeing
impression.
from Talent of Wang Chiang with Tom Baker doing a read-through.
I get the impression that a lot of the thing at this point was, okay, here's your script. You have half an hour to rehearse over your sandwich, and then we start shooting.
Yeah, but even if I was, I would have gone as like, are you sure you want to do Doctor Who is required? I mean, I'm pretty sure I could say the Doctor is required and make it sound the same, and it wouldn't be wall breaky, It's still just that whole line just bothers the fuck out of me. And, shades of that echoed forward in time to the end of the 6th series when you have the blue head going, Doctor Who, and I'm like, fuck you, Moffat. So, yeah, I've always had issues when they actually say that, other than using it as a question. As in, I'm the Doctor. Doctor Who?
Right.
Exactly. I don't mind that. That's a joke.
And considering how he was with some things, I could see Hartnell probably raising a stink over that if he knew.
Yeah, but
or being pissed off after he found out.
But he was probably too sick at the time, considering this was his third to last serial.
That's a very good possibility. Now you say that, yeah.
Also, it was a scene he wasn't in, so.
So he probably wasn't there to supervise at the time.
Yeah.
My granddaughter just telephoned me and said you referred to my character as Doctor Who. Don't you know that his name is not Doctor Who?
It's the Doctor, yeah.
Yes.
I could see him doing that, and the guy going, "Yeah, it's too late now. It's already aired." Yeah. All right. All right. So that's my least favorite scene. Now we're going to go on to our final thoughts. And Thomas, you are up first.
With this one, I had no idea what the hell to expect going in, but I enjoyed the hell out of this serial.
I'm glad I'm not alone.
There were honestly some bits where it actually did get me. Like, it was actually like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Despite the fact, this is like, oh yeah, right. I would immediately go, oh yeah, right. Ben and Polly, they show up later, so of course nothing's gonna happen to them. But it was still it still got to me, and it was like, they managed it. That's honestly, this went from a serial I didn't know even existed to probably one of my favorite classic serials that I've seen.
All right. Nice. Okay, anything more, Thomas?
No, that about covers it.
All right. Tim.
I just thought this was a really solid episode, and what was brought up today about how groundbreaking it was, establishing the trope of, the killer computer, who decides that humanity needs to be replaced or destroyed, right? Because I remember watching it, was is this the first time, or was there other stories that had brought up this idea?
Well, I can't vouch for old Fleischman cartoons, or the old Superman show, or all of that stuff.
Yeah, not sure about the old Superman show. The cartoons, from what I recall, there were robots, but none of them worked on their own.
Or just science fiction in general, pulp magazine stories.
There might have been the rare one-off.
Yeah, but as far as I know, this was the TV show codifier for this trope at the very least.
I thought this did a very good job of introducing Ben and Polly, not so good at dismissing Dodo, and I thought the Bum character was a textbook example of how to establish a throwaway character right, I think.
Nice.
So kudos to that. And I also really dug the title sequence
Mm-hmm.
at the
Yeah.
beginning of each episode.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's something. That's something. As we go into Second Doctor, we'll see a
Mhm.
little more of that.
Mm-hmm.
The War Mac Innes? The War Machine.
Mhm. Yeah, but no, I mean we'll see custom openings for episodes like that up until the Third Doctor era when they just go to the generic opening credits thing. Because even if you remember the war games, I don't. Were you here,
Yeah.
Tim, when we did the war games, where they had it and you had all the gunfire and stuff going off in the background, flashes and explosions and stuff? Yeah, they did that. They did that kind of stuff constantly through the Second Doctor era. So not all the time, but frequently enough. But yeah, this was the first time I remembered seeing it. Also, it kind of helped that they switched to using one title for the entire serial rather than.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you could actually spend the money to, invest in a custom title like that and use it for 4 to 6 serials.
There would have been Wotan, Doctor Who is Required, something, and then the War Machines. I don't know what episode 3 would have been called.
Possibly the Invasion or something like
And
that.
Noon.
Mm-hmm.
Those are basically my thoughts.
All right. Okay, Aaron, how about you? Your final thoughts?
I enjoyed this one. I had to kind of break off and then come back and watch the second half of it, but I enjoyed a lot of what people were saying, the acting. I liked Polly. I actually did like Ben too because he seemed like the really kind of heavy hitter. He wasn't as kind of dumbly portrayed as Harry was. He was a little bit quicker on the uptake, but he was also willing to use like brute strength to overcome obstacles. I didn't like how Dodo left. I kind of wish that she had shown up at least in the last episode. It would be a lot better if she could just turn over the key herself to Ben and Polly and tell them to go, or something like that, or to the doctor, or something like that. The idea of the war machines themselves, it was kind of cliche, so I don't think I really appreciated it as much. But, knowing that it's at least one of the first times that this has ever been portrayed, at least that we can find out about, kind of gives it a little bit more gravitas to it. And I also enjoyed the doctor here. And the military themselves kind of behaved to me like almost a pseudo unit, so.
Almost, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do highly recommend this one.
All right. Matt?
So, very, very, very brief, quick story is that back in the second season of New Who, I started watching Classic Who for the first time. When I hit War Machines, by the end of it, I knew I loved Classic Who. This was the one that officially won me over that I said, yes, I'm going to try and watch as much Classic Who as I can. I've watched a good solid chunk of it, starting around the Third Doctor all the way to about the 6th. The War Machines is probably the first one that shows some really big keynotes of what the Doctors probably should do just towards the end of the first Doctor's line too. Some of the keynotes that they should keep that work really well. We get introductions to some really good companions that'll stick around for a little while. Sadly, we have another really shoehorned sudden burp of a release of another companion, but I didn't really get to see much of her anyways at the time, so it didn't really affect me much then. But now it does kind of like they should have done this a lot better. But overall, this is a really well done episode otherwise, and if there's any arguments to be had, it's mostly nitpicks except for maybe 2 or 3 things.
All right. Bill?
Okay, I think I agree with the majority. It's a good serial. This is the only time in the black and white era that the full TARDIS crew, except for the Doctor, is switched out. As a modern fan, that makes me think something big is coming, but back in the 60s, they would have had no idea just how big what was coming next would have been. which of course would have been the first regeneration. But yeah, it's a good story. I mean, for what Dodo's in, she's interesting, and I wish she was in more of it. Ben and Polly are pretty interesting, and yeah, some of what's in it seems cliche now, but this was 50 some odd years ago, so it was definitely not nowhere near the same realm, especially by television standards, especially by BBC standards.
All right. Is that everything, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay. So I saw this one back in the 80s when I was first watching Doctor Who on WHA TV. I remember initially being confused because the last one I had seen was, I think, in Ian, Barbara, and Vicky, or just a Vicky, maybe a Stephen and Vicky.
Probably a Stephen and Vicky.
But somewhere in there, and it just skipped, and I didn't know why at the time because I didn't know anything about the missing serials.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to the War Machines, and I'm just like, what the heck? And wow, this is interesting. And I remember this was one I had taped, and I watched this one like a dozen times or more. And it was probably one of the few black and whites that I did that for. This and I think The Dominators, which was a second Doctor, when it was the only second Doctor I had. So, other than the War Games. But so I'd watch this one a lot, and I'm very fond of this one. It has a special place in my heart because it does codify the trope of the dominating computer. And that's a theme Doctor Who would go back to, and Star Trek would use, and everybody would use eventually. And I really liked the characters. I loved how it's written. I liked most of the stuff. I didn't get all of it as a kid, and I get it even more now, and that just makes it even more special to me. So I love this one to death. All right, I have to give it a little bit of deduction because of the whole Dodo thing, but we'll see where it goes. All right, so points. Thomas, you are first on the point listings.
Okay, I've pretty much had it set in my head what I was giving this after watching it, but I can tell you, if I gave fives, which I don't, because I hate giving shit full marks, this would have been probably a 5. And I think the only thing that would have knocked it down would have been the whole Dodo thing. So yeah, I'm giving this a 4.5.
4.5. All right. Tim?
I'm going to give this a 4.5 as well.
4.5. Okay. All right, Aaron?
I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4.5.
4.5 from Aaron. Bill, or wait, no, Matt. Sorry, Matt.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I'll go with a 4.5.
4.5.
I want to go higher, but
I'm going to have to say between the Doctor Who and the Dodo, I can't go higher than a 4 in good conscience. I want to give it a 4.5, but I just can't.
You suck, Bill.
Spin on it, Bill.
Yeah, sit on it and spin, because I'm giving it a 4.5 too. Up yours.
You negative Nancy.
When you said you had to give it a deduction, I figured that you were going to give it a 4 too.
Nope, this would have been a solid 5, but I had to give it a 2-point deduction for Dodo and a 2-point deduction. That's still a 4.6. Rounds down to a 4.5.
Yeah, see, I was still giving it a 4.75, and it's like, which direction should I go?
Don't feel sad, Bill. I was actually going to give it a 4.0 originally, and then I was just like, well, some of the stuff kind of outweighs.
I was sitting there like 4.5, 4.5, and then Randy was like, I've got to give it a deduction for Dodo, and I'm like, yeah. So like 4.0.
Only a 1-point deduction, Bill.
Yeah, I didn't deduct it that much. Because I love this. I love it to death. I couldn't in conscience give it anything less less than a 4.0. It's pretty much to me. This is
almost flawless, but that knee jerk with Dodo is just.
Yep. So at a 4.4, this will put the War Machines at number 30.
Ooh.
Out of 244 reviewed. It is number 30. It is. If you had given it that one more point, Bill, it possibly could have gone up to number 20. It is on par with the class, the medical physical engine, or what Quill did, our favorite and only really enjoyable episode of Class.
Mm-hmm.
The 11th Hour.
Mm.
Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel.
Oh.
10th Doctor Adventures, Time Reaver. The Time Warrior. Jago and Lightfoot, The Spirit Trap. Face the Raven. Big Finish, Judgment of Iskar. Husbands of River Song. The Santarum Stratagem, The Poison Sky. Terror of the Zygons. Smoke and Mirrors. It is better than The Three Doctors, Nightmare in Silver, Shadow of Death, Babel Spear, The Ice Warriors, The Dalek Invasion of Earth, The Last Centauran, Ghost Machine, The Web of Fear, Spearhead from Space, etc. And is not as good as the 4.5 listings, which is Utopia, Here Comes the Drum, Last of the Time Lords, The Zygon Invasion, The Zygon Inversion, New Earth, Enlightenment, The Thousand Worlds, The Heart of Battle, World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, Thin Ice, The Rebos Operation, The Invasion, Spare Parts. That's where it stands. Number 30 in our list of 244 Doctor Who related items reviewed.
Just a
That's
smidge
all
below the
we
invasion.
have to say for the War Machines. Bill.
Just a smidge.
All right. If you want to hear us say more things about other things, don't forget to follow us on twitch.tv/Unearthly Podcast and at an Unearthly Podcast on YouTube. You can also follow us on facebook.com/Unearthly Podcast and twitter.com/Unearthly Pod. And if you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/Unearthly Podcast.
All right, next week it's back to the telesnaps again. As we move forward one Doctor and backwards in time and meet everyone's favorite non-immortal Highlander in The Highlanders. Written by Elwyn Jones and Gary Davis and starring Patrick Troughton as the Doctor, Anik Wills as Polly, Michael Craist as Ben Jackson, and introducing Fraser Hines as Jamie McCrimmon.
Oh, hey.
So, see you for that next week. We might be in pain because of the telesnaps.
We'll see. We'll see how good the plot is. Good night.
From what I hear, it's pretty good, but